You're standing in the kitchen. The argument started over something ridiculously small, but suddenly it's escalating. And it's not even about the original issue anymore, is it? It's about that sudden, impulsive response you just felt bubble up. You aren't trying to resolve the conflict right now. You're just trying to win the fight.
Then she says it, just one sentence. You never listen to me. And before she even finishes the last syllable, you already have your answer locked and loaded. You hit back with that one line. You know the one you absolutely know is going to sting. You aren't explaining yourself, you are just striking back to win. And, well, it works. You win the moment.
But then comes the aftermath. Silence falls. A heavy, awful silence that drags on for what, 3 days? Later that night, you're lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling, thinking the exact same thing you always think. I really shouldn't have said that. In that quiet, remorseful space, it hits you. Being right has never actually given anyone permission to hurt someone else. Because if being right was really enough, you wouldn't be lying there carrying all that heavy regret.
Now look, your frustration is incredibly real. I get it. There was probably a lot of truth to what you wanted to say. Maybe you did feel completely attacked in that moment. Maybe you've been carrying this really heavy burden for weeks and no one even bothered to ask you how you're holding up. That is completely valid. But just for a second, we have to lower our defenses so we can look at a slightly better way forward.
There is a single sentence from James that completely dismantles this intense need we have to win our arguments. Here it is, word for word. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. It's so profoundly simple, right? But it carries this incredible weight.
To really get what he's saying, we have to look at the history here. Notice how he calls them his beloved brethren. See, James wasn't writing to people living comfortable, easy lives. These early believers had literally lost their homes. They lost their jobs, their cities. They were living under constant, extreme pressure. And James knew a very hard truth. Pressure doesn't change your character, it just reveals it. What comes flying out of your mouth when you're tired, stressed out, and offended? That is what is truly inside you.
So his solution gives us 3 distinct speeds. They aren't rigid rules, just speeds. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. But honestly, as humans, we kind of live the exact opposite way, don't we? We are agonizingly slow to listen, lightning fast to speak, and totally explosive when it comes to getting angry. Sure, we listen, but not to actually understand. We are just listening to find that tiny opening where we can slip in our own devastating reply.
Now, let's clear something up. Being slow to speak definitely does not mean being mute. It doesn't mean you're a coward, and it absolutely does not mean tolerating mistreatment. If someone is mistreating you, just listening is not the same as accepting abuse. James is not asking you to just disappear and take it. He's asking for a deliberate pause, a tiny, brief space between what you just felt and what you're about to say. Because that space, that is where impulse stops, and that is where God enters.
Think of it like a dam. The water being held back isn't wasted, and it isn't dead. It's just being carefully directed. That channeled water can irrigate fields, it generates power, it literally sustains an entire city. But if that dam breaks in a massive, uncontrolled release, that exact same water just sweeps away everything in its path. Your words are exactly like that water. The words themselves aren't inherently the problem. It's the destructive, unchecked speed at which you release them.
And that leads us to a really painful truth about human connection. A lot of relationships don't actually die from a lack of love. They die from an excess of reactions. People don't just wake up one morning and decide to stop caring. They just respond before understanding, over and over and over again, until one person simply can't take the damage anymore, and they just stop trying.
So here is a really practical step for the very next time you find yourself hurt in a conversation. Just remember one number, 5. When someone says something that hurts you, I want you to listen to the entire thing. Do not build up your defense in your head while they're talking. Just listen. And when they finally stop, count to 5 in complete silence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that before you say a single word.
Then, when you finally do speak, respond to understand. Make your very first sentence a question. Say something that proves to the other person that you truly heard them. Look, I'm not going to promise that one single conversation will magically resolve every conflict you have, or that 5 seconds of silence is going to heal years of really deep wounds. But those 5 seconds, they absolutely prevent today's wound, and that alone changes the entire trajectory of the conversation.
If you're comfortable with it, just hold these words in your mind for a second. Lord, forgive me for the words I spoke way too quickly, the ones I can never take back. Give me the humility to truly listen, the self-control to not just react, and the absolute wisdom to respond. May what comes out of my mouth today build up rather than tear down. Amen.
That is exactly where real change begins. One verse, one step, every day.